Hey, good morning to those of you on the West Coast and way out in the Pacific. Russ, good to see you're up and awake in Hawaii. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast here with me. It's a sunny day out there, which always puts me in a good mood. And Department of Commerce FY23 budget. It's always good to be in a good mood when you start talking about that. Today, we're going to be doing an overview of the budget for the Department of Commerce. And when I talk about budgets for federal agencies, I'm really coming at this from a salesperson's standpoint, not a financial analyst, for example, where they're looking at the numbers and they might talk about NAICS codes. Those to me are all good information, but they're more conceptual. I'm trying to talk about it pure from action items. So when I look at a budget, I'm looking to learn information. That's what we do in business development, right? Learn about an agency, their challenges, goals, and then also identify action items or tasks that I can create for myself related to an agency, in this case, commerce, at a department level, and then all the subordinate agencies below that. So we're going to be tackling into the Commerce's budget. I'll tell you more about that as we go forward. But if you don't know who I am, I'm Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live federal sales training, where I teach process and procedures for you to have success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. And when you follow the process, you're going to achieve predictable results. And that's what I want for you, is predictable results, predictable success, right? And so, sorry, I'm just trying to get my table set here. It's a little off for me. As we go forward, do me a favor, help me, help buyers remember who you are. Put your company name and your core competency, 2 or 3 words, into the chat. Let us know who you are in an easy way, and make sure you do it over and over again. You can never do this too much, right? Even if you've been here to 100 of my trainings or 100 of other people's trainings, every time you show up, make sure you're introducing yourself in an easy way. Let us know what you do, and then get engaged in the community, because this isn't just about training. One of the things we learned after 4 or 5 trainings in a row was that you and the others who are in this event today are building a community within chat. You're able to identify people that you might want to build a relationship offline with. Go chat, have introduction meetings. We've gotten so much feedback from people like you that say that's exactly what you get out of the chat, is you're meeting a lot of other great government contracting people. Some of you are even meeting buyers, because buyers occasionally come into our training. Okay, go ahead and put that in there. I'm going to go ahead and do the training now. It's I'm just tracking my time here. We've got about 25, 26 minutes of pushing through a fire hose worth of information. If you haven't been to one of my trainings before, I like to give a lot of information. My goal is that you get just a nugget or two, right? This is hours, weeks, months worth of effort that I'm going to put into 30 minutes, right? So the goal is to just really get you to see the power of budgets on your business development activity. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We'll jump right to the budget. I'm looking at the chat. I think we're good to go. Also, if you haven't been here before, I can't see the chat when I'm sharing my screen, but I do like to come back and see what's in there. And at some point, you'll see us come back and engage on any comments. So if you have questions, put them in there. Sometimes the people in the community will answer the question for you. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, get rocking and rolling. By the way, really quickly, before we get started, you saw that I have my website on there, govconchamber.com. Come here. We have these free directories. These are really powerful directories. When I was a small business owner, I didn't have anything like these. And this first one has over 1,000 names of small business specialists. We actually are getting ready to update it for October. So, FY 2023 with almost 100 new names, actually closer to 200 new names in both large primes, so SBLOs, and government small business professionals. It's fantastic, because people like you who have downloaded it and looked through have noticed some missing areas, and they provided the names. That's exactly what we're looking for. And these other directories, you can explore them on your own, but they're really good information for your business. Okay, so coming into the budget, one of the first things I do when I look at a budget like the Department of Commerce is I just start tabbing down or paging down, and I'm looking for things that pop up to me, right? I want to read all the information, but this document's small, by the way, 168 pages. And I'll show you in a minute what I'm talking about. But this is 168 pages summary of the Department of Commerce, which is made up of many different subordinate bureaus, agencies, whatever. So as we come down, what I plan on doing is just telling you why I highlight certain areas to give you an understanding of how I look at a budget. So the first thing I do is look at table of contents. If I didn't know the agency or the department as well, in here, I'm quickly able to understand, okay, here's your major organizations, the top bureaus, or not top, but the bureaus that are making up Department of Commerce, and then the top offices. I don't really care about the tables and graphics at the moment, so I skip through. So their table of contents is pretty bare, which is fine because I keep paging down. So let me go through some of this stuff here and show you just why I'm highlighting it, right? First thing I see is $11 billion discretionary funding. So that's, from a high level, somewhere along the lines, that's contracting dollars. It's actually lower in contracting dollars because that money is being spent in other areas within commerce, but at least it gives me an understanding. But the cool thing is there's 2.7 billion more in spending. And that tells me a lot, right? That's a 15-20% increase in spending. And you can go look at other training people have done, other material people have put out about federal budgets, and you can see this increase in spending. But that's just important for me to understand. If I'm trying to decide target agency, et cetera, I'm able to talk with my leadership, my colleagues, and say, hey, the spending's going up, not down. And that's really important because I'm going to show you down. This next one down here, it talks about the budget's going to help them meet challenges by leveraging timely data. If you're in the data analytics space, then you really get this. But you'll see throughout here a thread of how important data is. But this is important to me, right? No matter what services you're offering, what type of data do you have or is in your world that they might be able to leverage, right? When they talk about this. And then they also talk about the budget's funding, this whole initiative, continued initiative of modernizing and securing our data and systems. So they need to make sure it's all protected and enabling leadership to make data-driven decisions. These are important things, little nuggets I'm pulling out for the first few paragraphs of the budget that tell me when I'm talking to the government in meetings or when I'm writing proposals, that I'm going to use terms like this. I want to help you modernize and secure your data and systems. Something like that, right? I'm not plagiarizing, but I am learning from it. Okay, so as I come down, right here, it's additional stuff, right? Budget calls for $275 million for manufacturing extension partnership. In this particular scenario, the reason I highlighted is I want to understand what are the MEPs, right? I don't know what they are. Is it MEP? Is it MEP, right? But this is an action item for me. Go learn about that because I play in technology area, emerging technologies, whatever, and all of that's kind of related to the supply chain, right? So I want to understand what are they talking about? There's 51 MEP centers out there. Could I connect with a MEP center if I'm on the manufacturing side or in the supply chain to learn from them on how to do more within commerce, or could I learn more from them on how to benefit from what commerce is putting out there? This next area, specifically the budget provides $5 million for BEA to track U.S. participation in global supply and distribution, supply chain, et cetera. The reason I'm highlighting this is, again, I'm looking at this and saying, well, I'm in the supply chain world, right? And I'm talking about how I might be able to deal with supply chain vulnerabilities. That's an important thing for me. I've got a customer who focuses on logistics and supply chain. I pull this out, and now I'm focusing my energy a little bit down to BAE and say, hey, where is that $5 million? Is that, any of it being contracted out? And this is a good place for me to pause to say these documents, the budget in particular, are designed to help you shift left in the sales cycle so that you're not getting engaged in opportunities when it's in SAM as an RFP or an RFI, right? Or even in some of the other tools that they have for contract vehicles that are dropping in the portal. When you hear about it with the RFI, so does everybody, right? We all hear about it. But if you can hear about opportunities before the RFI, then you're able to begin to shape it. Maybe even if you're an 8A, push it to direct award, whatever. But that's called shifting left. If you shift left in the sales process, you'll be able to increase your chances of winning. And so right here, I would be going to knock on the door of Bureau of Economic Analysis and say, hey, can we have an intro meeting? Is there a place for me to play in here? I'd begin to learn. And that's why these documents are really helpful and why we say research is that first step of the 7-step process. And then down here, right, if I'm in the cybersecurity space or you are, $100 million for NIST cybersecurity and privacy activities. Now, I already know that NIST does cybersecurity and all this kind of activity, but I can look in there and say, well, what is that cybersecurity activity you're doing? That's a 25% increase over 2021. So where are you spending that money? It can't be all on salaries for more NIST employees. And so clearly they must be doing some contracting. I can get in there. I follow the money because this is what I do on cybersecurity. All right, so continuing to come down, let me just make it easy for me to scroll here. So the budget proposes, this one's pretty cool, right? $87 million for Office of Space Commerce. I've got a lot of customers who are focused on U.S. Space Force, and so basically the Air Force. And in there, is there an alignment for them back into commerce, into understanding the Office of Space Commerce? I don't know what it is, but it's enough for me to say, let me go research it. So I create an action item around that. Same thing, and I'm going to go through these ones pretty quick because they're all kind of the same thing where you see these major initiatives that they have. But here they talk about, they proposed $100 million for the MBDA, which just went under Commerce's control, I think, this past year. And but they're talking about more than doubles the budget that they had before. If you're able to help MBDA with their mission, then getting in there and talking to them early on, there's a lot of room for growth in there. That's $110 million. And no matter what they're talking about doing, the government isn't actually really fast at spending money when it's new, rushed in money, right? There's a balance between what I'm saying there, but it just tells me, let me go knock on their door and see what I can do. And it could be cybersecurity that I'm doing. It could be workforce training. It could be business process improvement, whatever it is, outreach, training. So here, another one. And again, this is the summary of all the bureaus that are below Commerce. But right here, NOAA's receiving a $6 billion budget. So I can see that budget. But the thing that I notice again is it's a 20% or so increase in budget. This is all good news so far of, hey, maybe I want to focus on NOAA in Commerce because their budget's going up. Down here, talks about this other one. If you're in the alternative energy type space, or maybe you're in Department of Energy also and trying to do stuff with alternative energy or whatever that right term is, but for anything but oil kind of thing. Well, here you're looking at $45 million for them to tap into this, and they're trying to deploy offshore wind energy. But it's not just about being the people who are deploying it offshore, all the supporting services that go into that. That makes me want to go figure out who in NOAA is dealing with that if I was in that space. I'm actually not in that space, but I thought it was interesting. So here, as I'm going through, you see me highlight these headers, right? Expand opportunity and discovery through data, provide 21st century services within 21st century capabilities. If you're an 8A Stars 3 company, both of these categories could be attractive to you because these basically are related to the contract vehicle 8A Stars 3. You can also do it on the outside, but here, the language is what I like, right? It talks to me about how they're thinking. Data is critical to fulfilling their mission to create conditions of economic growth and opportunity. We talk about how you must seek first to understand. The government wants to know that you understand. The way we say it is people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And they'll know that you care when you do things like this research and begin to read and understand. Actually, if you're following with what I'm saying here, just put in research rocks into the chat so I know you're tracking on this. And that research leads to the success downstream. And while you're doing that, I'll just kind of keep cruising through here. This language, right? Making timely data crucial for developing insights needed. This is important, right? This is the whole idea of data as a strategic asset. And when I see it in here, I'm able to spin their language, but it also helps me when I'm going to go in and ask questions. I might shape a question around, hey, I know in the strategic plan or in the budget, we talk about how commerce needs to make timely data crucial to developing the insights that you have, that you want to make, et cetera. How's it going for you, right? I can spin that in a way that shows that I'm reading their material, but I want to understand, is that a problem for you? Of course it's a problem because they've got like 5 or 10 years to continue to improve this. And so by looking at this, I can understand and create questions for meetings. Okay, so as we go down, if you're reading ahead, right, Census is going to transform from old to new, data-centric model. And I like that, right? Their term is data-centric. Somebody in DoD might say data as a strategic asset, understanding just something as simple as the data-centric model, right? That's how the government is talking in commerce, but sometimes in other areas, they do it differently. Census will advance the data initiative. So they're just talking about how in the Census Bureau, it's really important. Coming down here, $50 million to implement EEO Executive Order 14028, improving the nation's cybersecurity, right? This is really important. As you're reading through a budget and you see somebody reference or the budget reference in executive order or any other document, it's important to just download that into your research folder and say, let me go look at that. What is that? If commerce is so focused on EO 14028, then how do I make sure I understand it and I can support them? And down here, you just see some of the initiatives I highlighted. I'm going to skip past those. Here now we're going into the departmental management. So if you remember from the table of contents, let me come up here really quick. If you go to the table of contents, right, we just, all that stuff we were looking at was just the executive overview. But if we come down here to, I think it's page 9 is where I was at, departmental management, now they're breaking it down. And I want to just show you pretty fast some of these things because I got some other documents to show you. But in here, they just talk about DM also acts as the management and administration control point for the department. So the entire Department of Commerce, basically I'm learning that the departmental management is the centralization for all the bureaus, et cetera, when they can do that. In here, I'm able to learn what are the different accounts that they have. So the salary and expense account are the people in commerce. I can look down here at non-recurring expense funds and see that this is where business and technology system modernization, anything related to like professional services in that space fit for me. I'm like, okay, I get it. I need to pay more attention to that. If you don't know these things, these documents will begin to teach you, right? You don't need to go to me or somebody else to learn first. The government is teaching you right here through their documents. Later on, you'll see them talk about terms and explain what a term means. If they're saying this term or that term, and it's great because you have this glossary that helps you learn their language. As I go through, right, this part here, this huge thing, right, DM's mission priorities. It's important for me to understand my customers' priorities. And so here they're telling me our priorities are to provide overall leadership, policy direction, and coordination of the programs and to further, obviously, the department's mission. They talk about how they do it and where it's at, but I'm in cybersecurity, I'm in IT, I'm in professional services. I see all of that fit within their priorities here. And so it's telling me I need to dig deep into this group. Another quick one here, the non-recurring fund, where it talks about funds are deposited. This was an interesting thing for me to put in. I don't claim to be a fund expert, right? I'm not a contracting person or a finance person. I know enough, right? I've been in this business 20 years, but it's cool when I look in and I start learning it again. I'm reminding myself, continuous learning, right? The funds deposited in the account are going to be available for information, business technology systems. This is what I was talking above. Well, who's managing that account or who's tracking on that? Yes, I'm going to go to program offices, but what about contracting folks that are responsible for this? Am I able to find contracting officers who tend to focus more on the non-recurring expenses compared to some of the other expenses we saw? Just this last one, I think I want to end with this part and then switch to a couple other documents. This one's really important, right? Summary of increases, that's cool, but decreases and obviously terminations, but decreases are the big ones for me. If I come down, I start looking at things, right? So obviously, as I come down, I can see their programs, all these different things that give me action item. Here's this technology and business management under the OCIO. I need to put that as an action item. What is that? Is it an office under the OCIO? Is it one person? Is it 20 people? I want to go learn, right? So these things begin to help me understand it. Down here, NEF cyber program. What is that? It's $50 million. It's something I want to go learn. So I'm going to go learn in this document or in a couple of the other documents I have. You see right here, it's got decreases, right? This is huge. These decreases represent areas that I got to be careful. Now, fortunately, from a big level, it's not too much that I care about. But here it says business application solutions. They're dropping by 25 people and 20 million. What are you talking about? Well, deeper in this document and others, you'll find more details on it. I wanted to point out one just for people who are in this. So here's a bunch of, I just highlighted really quick. You can see increases. But where's this one that was a decrease? Sorry. So remember I was talking about NEF cyber program. So I come down here and I'm like, cool, this is zero trust. If you've heard me talk before, zero trust is the buzzword for cyber within the federal government, right? I don't care about people's individual thoughts on it. It's a buzzword, and the buzzword is where leaders will tend to focus. Well, now I can come in here and start looking at what are these things that they're talking about. And it gives me a lot of action items that are in there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it quick enough before I switch. Let me pop down. Right here, ServiceNow. This is the one I wanted to go to because we have like 3 people who are in this community I know for sure who do ServiceNow. Well, I can see right here that there's a reduction in the ServiceNow spending, a significant reduction, right? And I want to go in and learn why. And they talk about how they consolidated 2 contracts down to 1 contract, et cetera. And so this is important for me to understand. And I have to look at this and go, well, is commerce right for me? Or is USPTO right for me? And if it's not, then I just bail. But at least having the information makes sure I don't waste time thinking I can knock on doors to get ServiceNow going when really their spending is decreasing on that and it's increasing somewhere else. But if I went to another bureau or another agency, I might see increased on ServiceNow. Hopefully that made sense there. Actually, if you're tracking on what I'm saying, just put in increase and decrease. Just let me know that you're understanding that you can look at a budget and see where the government is increasing spending and decreasing spending. So just put in increase or decrease. And that'll give me a second to drink some water. So one of the things I talked about, if you actually looked at the event details that I put in, is it's one thing to look at the budget, but it's another thing to look at the budget and aligning it to the strategic plan. So there's 3 documents I want to show you really quick. This one here is the strategic plan for 2022-26. And generally, the start of administrations, they try to create 4-year plans going out. But here they've got a learning agenda. I'm going to explain that because it relates back to policy and what leadership is thinking. And this is truly, to me, business development and capture, understanding your customer. It's only 60 pages. The other one's only 81. And this last one is only 125, right? So it's only 200 or 300 pages. What's the big deal? But if you take the time to understand these ones, this one is an annual performance plan, an annual performance report. And so I'll show you what those mean in a second. But these are business development tools that are vital for us. Let me come down here. I obviously always go to the table of contents, right? When I come in here, I'm able to see very quickly, what are they trying to get done? What are their strategic goals and what are their objectives? I can align that back to the budget and see where they're spending, because in the budget, they will talk about certain priorities or certain goals. And so when you see them in the budget, go right to the strategic plan and understand it further. As you come down, you'll see that different documents will explain the organization differently to you. But one of the things that I like seeing is at the bottom, let me scroll in really quick. At the bottom, I'm able to get quick summary understanding of this agency just through the strategic plan, and similar to the budget, right? But 47,000 employees. They have a lot of folks in here. The number of patent examiners. And so depending on what space you're in, this is important information to track on. So they've got a lot of other information in here you can track on, but this is the last one I wanted to show you. This page here talks about, and I don't know if I highlighted it, but the performance management framework right here, the infographic below here, it illustrates the structure of the plan. And so I can look at the plan, but the reason this is so cool for me, and I hope you see the same thing, because when I say cool, I mean the government is helping me easily understand them, right? Usually with people, we have to work hard to understand them, or with companies. But here, they're helping us fully understand them before we ever knock on doors. And so when you look at this infographic, let me scroll up a little bit, you're looking at why is this, is the department's work important generally? So the mission, et cetera. And then what are the broad long-term outcomes is this second one. And this is where the strategic goals align. And then when you move down to the strategic objectives, we're talking about what specific objectives will the department target in order to make progress on its goals. So understanding that they set goals, but the objectives are that measurement, or that, how they think they'll make progress on it. And then the next thing is, how will they advance it? So what are the strategies they have towards advancing those objectives? And then how will they measure that? The KPIs at the end, right? How will we make sure that we're moving forward on the goals and objectives we have? This next one, learning agenda, right? These 3 documents are very strong strategic documents. You find them on the Commerce's website. But in here, let me see if I highlighted it. I did, and I'm going to zoom in again. We got like 5 minutes left here. So right here, we talk about a learning agenda. What is it? It's a systematic plan for identifying and addressing policy questions relevant to the program's policies, regulations of the agency, right? It identifies short and long-term strategic questions, not goals, not objectives, but questions they have, right? And here they talk more about it, but I want to show you really quick an example of one of them. I think, let me try page 6 here. So when you come in here, let me come right here. When you come in, they talk about priority question to be answered, the learning bureau that's in charge of that activity, some of the background, the activities. All this is important. When I teach people about capture, one of the first things I say is you need to understand the background of an opportunity. What is going on with it? Why are they coming in? And not just what they wrote the PWS, but where did it come from? Well, it's the same thing with understanding the customer's challenges and their requirements. Why are they coming at this requirement? Well, because it lines up to a goal or an objective. It comes back to how can they most effectively increase minority business enterprise participation? As an example, that's a question Census Bureau is asking themselves. When I look at that information, I can begin to understand two things: their situation, fully understand them better. I seek to first understand, but then I can understand how do I communicate what I sell to align with what they truly need. And then this last document, just tracking my time here, this last document, and all these documents, again, are gold to me. They all come back and weave in together with the budget as it helps you understand. So this annual plan and annual performance. Annual plan basically, or annual report is what did we do? And annual performance plan is what's going forward. So in here, it's got information you can scroll through. It's another way of quickly looking at what's there. If anybody saw this morning, I put out a post on LinkedIn. I shared this org chart with a strategic plan, but instantly I'm able to see it. And one thing I wanted to just point out that even for me, I learn every single time I'm touching this, right? I might look at, sorry, hold on one second. I might look at the bureaus, right? And think that the organization is done by bureaus. But then I begin to look in here and say, well, okay, so the Census Bureau and some of this other stuff, they're under economic affairs. I begin to have a better understanding of who they are. And that's what I encourage you to do as well. You can come through this document, but this is the last place I think I'll stop, is the annual performance plan and report documents serves two purposes, right? And in here, it's telling you that purpose. One is, what did we achieve in the last fiscal year, right? Because we basically just wrapped up FY 2022. And then what are we doing over the next 2 fiscal years? So this document looks out 2 fiscal years saying, what are we still doing? And this is this way of kind of constantly moving it forward. When you talk about trying to get into a program office and talk to them, get into the government and understand what an agency is doing, the Department of Commerce is making all of that really clear for us with these documents. When you take the time to research these, you'll understand the budget better and where we might be spending money, the priorities, et cetera. And you will look so much more prepared when you do outreach and you're trying to build strategic relationships with your target customers, et cetera. Anyways, fire hose worth of information for both me and you. I hope you found it valuable. If you did, do me a favor, throw thanks into the chat. We always appreciate that. John, copying and pasting, come on. Hey, remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It is just a process. Part of the process is research, right? Taking the time to get to know our customer. The other part of the process is to continue to come back to these trainings day after day and tell your friends. So I hope I'll see you in the next training, and I hope you have a great day.